everybody, it's Olivia F. Scott, and I'm here with another edition of Behind the Ad. Today, we have a wonderful guest that I'm so thrilled to introduce to you in a moment, who's going to talk with us today about New Orleans culture. New Orleans culture is known internationally. The food, the music, the bands, the festivals, the parades, the second lines, Super Sundays, Mardi Gras, and so much more. Today, I couldn't be more thrilled, genuinely, to welcome a true leader whose work sits at the heart of New Orleans culture. As president and CEO of the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation, she helps steward and support the very culture that so many brands around the world want to tap into. Her work focuses on investing in local culture bearers and creative entrepreneurs, and on ensuring that the stories told about New Orleans are grounded in authenticity, equity, and respect, most of all. In this episode, we're going to explore how brands can properly highlight New Orleans culture in their advertising without being exploitative, how to distinguish cultural appreciation from appropriation, and what it looks like to center the communities whose stories are being told. So everyone, please welcome the president and CEO of the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation, Lisa Alexis. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a privilege, such a privilege.
I agree.
So, Lisa, NOTCF, can you just a top line for us, what is NOTCF here in New Orleans? What do you all do?
Yes, the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation serves as a company that partners, supports, undergirds our cultural economy, our cultural industry through partnerships, sponsorships, and direct investment in the work of truly elevating our culture.
And how long have you guys been doing this work?
Really, just 5 years.
Okay, so new.
Yes.
What was the reason for the development of it? Do you know? I know you're relatively new, right? And you left the Office of Cultural Economy and you came here, which is amazing. So do you know why they developed NOTCF?
Tourism and culture is a huge driver in our city of New Orleans as well as in the state of Louisiana.
Okay.
And what we have done and done well is marketing the culture throughout the United States and the country. However, there was a need to truly invest in the cultural artists, their businesses, the venues, so that the work and the businesses would continue to be able to scale up for these multi-million-dollar events that we host here in a smaller city.
So still investing in the culture
Directly.
That makes a lot of sense, right? So Lisa, when you are evaluating a tourism or cultural campaign for New Orleans, right, our beautiful city of New Orleans, what specific signals indicate to you this is an authentic appreciation of our culture versus it being inauthentic and appropriation of our culture?
Yes. What drives us to see the authentic side of it is if the cultural practitioners are leading that brand, leading that campaign. Are they the ones that are speaking to the experience? Are they the ones representing the brand or the story that that campaign is seeking to tell?
Okay, so if it's not, let's say I'm going to use one of our artists or one of our masking Indians, not one of the people they're actually using, and then what would they be doing if not? If they're not using or they're not being led by one of our culture bearers, who would it be?
When that occurs, it's misaligned, and sometimes people may utilize actors or other folks, or if that story is being told and they're wanting to show the culture, but if the true culture is not utilized, sometimes the backdrop, the music, or the scene itself is not placed in a correct setting that is truly authentic and believable to the audience.
So is it set up with NOTCF where campaigns from advertisers have to go through NOTCF or the Office of Cultural Economy? Are there any boundaries, not boundaries, but benchmarks where you have to have approval? It's I know, I'll give you an example. So when I was at Vibe Magazine and I was the head of marketing there, any movie that wanted to use a Vibe Magazine cover like in a little boy's room. You always want to have the cover with Biggie or T.I. or one of those in like a little boy's room. That was always what Paramount Sunday would call us for. We had to see it. We had to approve it. So do we have those systems in place that if somebody wants to use the New Orleans culture, they have to go through Lisa Alexis or NOTCF?
Actually not. That is not required.
Okay.
However, if there is a filming of a commercial or a film production, we do have in the city of New Orleans a film office.
Okay.
And that filming must be permitted through. However, we as a city do not have authority to really change the content of their work.
Maybe something we can work towards to ensure it's authentic. I'm just talking out loud now. Like, you know what I mean? So New Orleans is known worldwide for its music. As I mentioned earlier, its music, its people, the parades, the traditions, food, and festivals. And so much of that culture is rooted in Black and Indigenous traditions. How should brands ensure that the communities who originate the culture are visible, credited, and compensated in campaigns that use those elements?
I believe the businesses should engage, contract, and work directly with the cultural artists themselves, just as you would with any other professional engagement, contract, or matter. In that way, it will ensure that you are really understanding and receiving an expert advisement in the direction that you are going. And that is totally possible. There are cultural artists that they have their directories in place. And just to speak to that, in the very near future, in this year, our office of NOTCF is going to launch a cultural information system that is going to serve as a cultural directory for our cultural artists, businesses alike, so that there's a direct connect to them. It serves as a marketing, visibility, expansion page for them to be directly contacted and engaged. But the true success in one's marketing ability of our city is to work directly with the professionals, the local location managers, the industry, the film industry. They are here, they're skilled, they are unionized. And so that means that they are very much competent and prepared to really elevate one's campaign story to a level that would really draw you in. Because I know I'm biased, but I completely believe that once you see New Orleans, experience New Orleans, you'll fall in love with New Orleans.
Agreed. As somebody who I'm always like, I'm a transplant. I've been here 6 years. I'm like, once you really get in the culture, you have no way except to there's really no other option rather than to really appreciate the culture. So, Miss Lisa, I want to go back. You mentioned this directory from NOTCF. Do you have an expected date in which it's going to be completed?
Yes, we are aiming for the summer of 2026. So just a few months away.
Okay.
But we are in prototype testing.
Good.
We are utilizing authentic cultural artists to test the prototypes at this time because we want it to be a usable system that are not only for artists, but just for those who are casually seeking what to do, who to see here in our city. Also funders who may want to invest.
Correct.
And opportunities for resources for our cultural artists to be able to expand and grow their business as well.
I love it. So you're a hub for both the artists and the creative entrepreneurs. They would come to you and say, hey, I want to be on the directory. And then those who are funding and the advertisers and brands who want to support, they can come. It's a two-way.
Absolutely.
So let's say it's before the summer. Okay? Let's just say, hypothetically speaking here. And you've got a brand who is watching this like, oh, I've always wanted to do an ad in the French Quarter, Jackson Square, whatever. I want to do an ad. What would you tell a brand the criteria would be to ensure they are selecting true culture bearers? Are there any criteria, like you have to be born here, you have to have been doing the work for more than 5 years? Any criteria? Because I believe we've had a conversation previously around the people who spend a year in New Orleans, right? Or they're somewhere outside of the city and they go internationally and say, I'm representing New Orleans culture. And they make a mint off of it. So how can we ensure that the people who are representing themselves as true culture bearers and creative entrepreneurs hailing from New Orleans are the truest of the true.
We believe that one should look at how many years has that organization really been in place, and understanding. We believe that 5 years or more is truly representative, because our traditional culture has been taking place for generations, for hundreds of years, and so a 5-year minimum is really easy to ask, and I would say to contact directly to those organizations. Now with technology, you put in Google, you can really reach out, and if you're looking for Social Aid and Pleasure Club, brass bands, those authentic companies and organizations are going to pop up.
Right.
And we would say go directly into those communities, into those neighborhoods, to actually work with and receive authentic experience. We have what we call our golden agers. Our golden agers are those who are we say culture bearers, and also the standard of our culture as well. And they provide the history, the knowledge, and the direction in which one should work with when it comes to campaigns, marketing, and learning more about our history, our understanding what it is you should know in order to better affect the story you're telling.
And they're called golden.
We have our golden agers.
Golden agers.
Yes, here in our office of NOTCF. And so in our grant making that we also offer, and I have to just say that over the past 5 years, we have awarded over 2,000 grants and an investment of $19 million. And with that, we have our golden agers also earmarked to receive those dollars, because they are the ones who are passing the torch and the history to those who come behind them with our culture. And so we work directly with them to ensure that we are getting it right, and that the preservation of our culture is solid.
I am so happy to hear that, because, when we look at the Mardi Gras, the masking Mardi Gras Indians, and what it takes to put together those suits every year, the time, the money. I've gone to a few lectures around them at NOMA and other places, and people I spend all year, I go to work and I come home. It's good to know that organizations like NOTCF are actually funding and undergirding them, because it's volunteer work, but they're doing it for the culture, to preserve the culture. So I'm really thrilled that you've 2,000 and over 19 million.
Yes.
Wonderful. 2,000 grants, over 19 million. So, Lisa, can you walk us through a recent campaign or initiative that you've seen that you believe truly honored New Orleans culture really well? What choices did the brand make visually, in casting and messaging, that made it feel respectful versus, exploitative?
Absolutely. That brings to mind a commercial that was really big last year in 2025. It was our Super Bowl 59, and it was held here in New Orleans. And really, this commercial was historic. What it shared was our own Queen Taj. She was selected by the NFL to create the Super Bowl logo, and this had never happened before in the 59 years of NFL Super Bowls. And that commercial centered in directly on Queen Taj in comfortable clothing, but sitting there at the table with the beadwork. It emphasized the tools, it emphasized the beading, it emphasized the time it took and the in-depth creativity it took for her to create that logo. And then it focused just on the work, the craftsmanship, and quietly, no speaking, but quietly gave the importance of the work and the creativity it takes to really display the beadwork and the suits of our Mardi Gras Indians and so many other aspects of regalia that we have here as traditional culture. And then it landed with the finished product on the wall against or on the side of one of her Indian suits, and it was the logo itself, and it spoke for itself. I thought it was very impactful, powerful, and it captured everyone's attention.
I've kind of created my own path by going with different designs for my suits and trying to focus in on, what could I do to elevate myself from the previous year. I like to kind of start with being in competition, you could say, with myself before I go out on Mardi Gras Day and show everyone else why I'm so pretty. Tradition is important, especially in New Orleans, because it gives us a sense of belonging and also is a connection to our past or our ancestors. The masking tradition came about because African Americans were not allowed to participate in the mainstream Mardi Gras that happens on St. Charles. So we kind of like hit on I say we, but my ancestors and our ancestors hit on the back streets with their own celebration. And it's essentially to pay homage to Native Americans who helped the runaway enslaved.
So on the flip side, when we think about who's gotten it wrong, without naming names, tell us what are some common mistakes you've seen when brands borrow or misalign with the New Orleans culture with our brass bands and various. Tell us what it looks like when you get it wrong. I don't want you to name anybody, shame anybody, but what does it look like when you get it wrong?
When you get it wrong, the context, the scenery, the music, the look, the act of second lining in a space where one would not be second lining.
Break
and
that down.
Granted, we do celebrate.
Yeah.
We celebrate living and the dead.
Yes.
However, when it is misaligned and there are people truly mimicking what is believed to be a part of our culture and it isn't properly placed in a scene, in a setting, it gets it wrong. And I will say that so many people travel from around the world to New Orleans that even people from around the world will know if you're getting it wrong. And so that's why we encourage you to hire local, hire the film industry folks local, so that those location managers can identify and direct you to the proper people and the proper places.
But still to be judicious. What I've seen working with the culture for a long time from New York, right, is that a lot of times you're quick. You say, I need to get somebody to do it quick, and you want to find a brass band quickly. And I have gotten it wrong, right? It's like you call and I've chosen somebody and they were younger or they didn't get it right. So I think it's still about proper diligence and being judicious when you are making the phone calls. But also I want to talk about money, right?
Yes.
How can we ensure that people, and I'm not even really sure the right question to ask, but what I want to get at, honestly, is making sure that brands, marketers, advertisers are coming in to leverage the New Orleans culture, they actually pay. Because I've seen it time and time again. There's something about the culture being, I don't know if it's Black, Indigenous, or in Louisiana, where they feel they can throw a couple of coins and call it a day. So what could we say to those brands and advertisers and marketers who are like, oh, I've got like a $2,500 budget for a whole commercial and I'm just going to give them $500. Like, what do we say to them?
Well, at this time, we're fortunate because just recently, working with now Mayor Helena Moreno, at the time was Councilwoman Moreno, we've worked with her office to now have a minimum pay requirement. It is for musicians' pay. However, we align that across the board of all culture so that there are compensation bottom levels, and we are also working closely through an elevation series that we provide throughout the year to inform our cultural artists and businesses that we do not have to underprice ourselves to be a part of a commercial. We must have a standard level so that everyone is fairly compensated through market rates. At market rates and levels. And so that is something that I believe we're starting to see as culture is really being elevated to the forefront, and understanding that the questions that we ask as cultural artists is not what's your budget, but to have your own pay scale, have your scale, and then to share your scale with the businesses so they'll understand.
Having a rate card.
Yep, rate card, exactly.
Like anybody else. You call these influencer these days, and I'm always fascinated by that. And the influencers are like, well, for one reel, it's $20,000. You're like, what? But having your rate card and knowing, being able to negotiate from there. And I know something else we had discussed previously is that you all have some business courses, I believe, or curriculum for the culture bearers and creative entrepreneurs. Tell us about that a little bit.
Elevation series. And so, and we keep those, it's evergreen. It's on our website at notcf.com.
Okay.
And we have YouTube, evergreen information from every type of elevation series. Our subjects have covered marketing. It has covered contract negotiation. It has covered LLCs. It's covered, oh my goodness, so many basic, fundamental, foundational type aspects. AI, how to utilize AI for your benefit as well. Also, access to capital from our different financial institutions. It is several different subject matters that exist, and we continue to do so. In fact, we're in negotiation now with a partner of ours, planning to do one on contracts again, understanding how to establish and set contracts. But we also speak to simple invoicing and utilizing technology to your benefit so that your brand is speaking and working for you while you're resting and not having to perform, but your brand is performing for you.
Today we are joined here with Crystal Allen and Delgado again to have our second elevation series of the year, which was Boss Moves, Negotiate Like a Pro, and Protect Your Worth. So overall, we learned about negotiating our worth, negotiating contracts, understanding the important things of what to look at in contracts.
I drove into New Orleans this morning because I wanted to attend this exciting opportunity where I'm learning how to be a boss lady. And not only were we given the opportunity to learn from Crystal, but we were also given the opportunity to learn from each other.
A lot of this business stuff can be really scary as an independent artist. So NOTCF is making it possible to learn just how to engage these things in a smart way.
It was a turnaround experience for everyone. Crystal is always a great teacher, a great mentor, and just a great partner to work with NOTCF. And then Delgado has been amazing with a beautiful space and allowing us to utilize their campus on a Saturday to uplift and elevate our culture.
So if you could give one practical checklist item each for strategy, creative, and media teams working on a New Orleans themed campaign, what would those be to help them show genuine cultural appreciation, protect against appropriation, and still meet their business goals?
One strategy for creative teams: hire local, hire authentic cultural practitioners, cultural artists.
Okay.
Pay fairly market rate compensation, because we are not everywhere. And please understand, you'll get what you pay for if we aren't going with solid professional entities. We're not knowing who is disguising as and who's true. So really working with authentic companies that are have been in business, and you see them and you have that history. And also with media teams, allowing the artist, if you're utilizing local New Orleans cultural stories, allow those artists to also feed into that content and context. We're not asking everyone to rewrite, but allow them to be able to fact check and make sure it's genuine.
Thank you. And I think they're going to be better for it too.
Yes.
Right? Nobody knows it better than those who are actually living it and know the generations of it and are doing it and breathing it. Lastly, we often see brass bands and steppers in campaigns. I've used them for years as well. And at weddings for out-of-towners all through the quarter and CBD and all that. Are there other cultural traditions that you would like to to get more visibility outside of brass bands and steppers? Those are like the easy go-tos we see all the time.
And they are wonderful
Yes,
and
they
so
are.
appropriate
Yes.
as I spoke to the celebrations of all types. Well, we have such a vast variety of culture as well. And so we have literary voices, authors that may be utilized here in New Orleans. We also have video and photographers, and their work tells so many impelling stories as well. We have fashion designers as well that we would love to see the opportunity there. And then on our preservation side, the architecture of this city is so beautiful, and there are times where architecture tells a story in itself as well. So we'd like to see them get some of that love as well. And our visual artists, we'll see beautiful murals throughout, but there's so much more to share in our visual artists' work. And so those are just some areas, and of course culinary,
Right.
which everyone enjoys the food and all. And so I believe they receive that love, but in those other areas that sometimes aren't as noticeable.
Got you. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
Since I've been here, I've become a fan of, I want to name a couple, but it's like spoken word, like Sonny Patterson, and
Oh,
like
yes.
whether it's B. Mike or Carl Joe
Yes.
Williams. I mean, some people you're just like, this is just beautiful, and it's right here.
Yes,
You
every
know?
day. We're so fortunate. We
Beautiful.
are fortunate.
We are. It's beautiful. So thank you for joining us today. And thank you for listening into this edition of Behind the Ad. If you are looking to include New Orleans in any of your advertising strategies, do it properly, right? Make sure you do your diligence. Wonderfully, I've learned today that NOTCF, that they're going to have a directory coming summer of 2026. Even beyond that, they can be a resource for you in helping to curate which cultural bearers and creative entrepreneurs you should use. Don't be gypped, and just make sure you do it appropriately. May God continue to bless you guys. See you soon.